Hello, welcome back to Loutzen Academy. In this week's video, we're doing more of an art block style. In the past 2 weeks, my videos were more tutorial based with painting my dog Kai. The first video was a black and white portrait, and the second video was demonstrating glazing with oil paints, adding color to the black and white portrait. Today, we will be exploring what elements in a painting that will make it interesting to a viewer. During the video, I'll be using technical terms, but for the most part, as we go through the video, it'll be more intuitive and typically subjective about what elements in certain paintings that I find interesting we can use in our own artworks. I will be going through 3 different magazines and just pointing out specific paintings that I found interesting and why each paintings have the viewers look at them for longer than 5 seconds. I fear today with social media, an artist can put hundreds of hours into a painting and to only be viewed for 5 seconds or less, especially with our tendency to scroll past multiple paintings and images throughout the day. But in an art museum, when the viewer is actually taking the time to look at paintings, some paintings do captivate you a lot more than others. So I'll be exploring which paintings captivated me in the magazines and what elements they have that may be helpful to us as artists. So we will be looking through this magazine publication. The 3 magazines I do have is from 2012 to 2014. And this publication is still ongoing. You can actually go on its website and subscribe to the newsletter and get actual printed copies mailed to your home or emailed digitally. So before we get started, I am sipping on some raspberry leaf tea. Usually I start the video with some coffee, but I needed a break from it and I haven't been feeling well lately, so I decided to revert back to tea. For raspberry leaf tea, I advise if you're pregnant to not drink it at all. Helpful during the menstrual cycle or cramps, but I do advise any pregnant woman or any woman planning to be pregnant to avoid raspberry leaf tea. Another side note, I also want to start going to art auctions. I don't plan on bidding or buying any of the collections, but I think it would be very interesting to see what sells in the art world and what people value. I find it very subjective of what's considered good art and not good art, and what's considered expensive art and not expensive art and not. And I think it'll be really fun to start going to these art auctions. Originally, I thought they were more exclusive to a certain class, but I realized a lot of these art auctions are free and that you can attend. And during the day, they have more of a casual setting, and then at night, then they have more of a formal setting. So I might start looking into art auctions and seeing and just being around art and being around people who collect art. I think it'd be a very interesting experience as an artist. Like I said earlier, these 3 magazines are newsletter that gets sent out if you're subscribed to it. These 3 were hand-me-downs to me. I have not subscribed to anything like this before, but I'm actually considering it once I open up my budget for it, because they do send, I believe, 3 to 4 publications a year, and you could get a subscription to do both digital and physical newsletters. But I'm more interested in the physical newsletters. I'm trying to be less on my phone during the day, and this is a great way to always be exposed to art. I also had the time last week to look through these magazines because we had a power outage, so it was a perfect time for me to slow down and actually look through these paintings and see what really interested me about them. And as I was looking through them, I realized it was the composition and the leading lines that made me interested in each portrait painting. Hello, so I will be going through these 3 fine art magazines. Thumbing through magazines is a great way to train your eye to what works in your art. Through some of these pieces that I bookmark, I'll be talking through with some technical terms, but mostly this will be subjective and just my opinion on why this piece works or why this piece is interesting to me. So we'll start with this first one right here. The first painting that caught my eye was this beautiful portrait, and naturally my eye gravitated towards the eye of the portrait. So eyes are going to be the main focal point of most portraits, and naturally the viewer are always going to look straight at the eye because naturally you want to make eye contact with the portrait itself or see where the eye is looking towards, which is specific portrait is the viewer itself. The first focal point that I noticed was going to be the eye, and naturally from looking at the eye, my eye shot up to this beautiful tile work. It is covered by some of the writing, but you can see that this tile work detailing is as interesting, and it was the second thing that I noticed. From the tile work, my eye went straight through this line that seems to cut across the portrait itself, and I found this line very interesting because it's showing a juxtaposition between light and dark. So we have this giant negative space of black right here, and we do have some whites on this side, but once we get to the portrait itself, it seems to flip. So we have much of the light right here and the shadows through here. So having this shadow mirror in a way the negative space, this light of the garment reflecting the tiling right here, it creates an interesting illusion for the eye to bounce back between light and dark. In this portrait, the juxtaposition between light and dark is what makes it very interesting. See in the composition as well, the woman is not centered right through here, and I found it interesting that this line isn't going to be centered. The line isn't going straight through the middle of the painting itself. It's off to the side. So it creates an imbalance and it's not quite symmetrical. And I think making that line right here and bringing the portrait forward will in a way change the interest of the portrait itself. And so the artist created a lot of this negative space and pushed the subject to the side. I would say this painting right here may have less dynamic features going on compared to the first portrait I shared, but I do like how this painting makes my eyes want to push back and forth, left to right in the painting. So we have some implied lines going on right now with horses lined up as well as the man lined up on the top. But we also have some leading lines as well, physical leading lines, and it's these dispensing right here. It makes our eyes go back and forth. I do see that the painting itself is focused on the foreground, so my eyes kind of want to bounce back and forth in the foreground, and it doesn't want to push back towards the mountains in the landscape. The one element that might push our eyes back towards the landscape is the way this third horse is positioned. He is facing outward towards the landscape, and the artist did not put a person right here where the horse is at. So this horse is shooting, this position makes the viewers want to shoot towards the landscape. I think the artist not putting a man right here could have been that intention of him pushing our eye backwards. Naturally, my eyes want to move from left to right, back and forth throughout the painting. We do have another use of implied lines. I'll give the viewer a moment to take in the painting and see what elements of the painting itself would be considered implied lines. So remember, implied lines are lines that aren't physically shown in the painting. Remember, applied lines does not have to be a physical line. It could be an alignment of objects or the way lighting is used throughout the painting. My main focus goes straight to the foreground, and it actually follows this shadow. And this shadow creates quite this zigzag back and forth between the painting, where I start looking at the structure in the back. Looking at the portrait in the foreground would be my main focal point, and then my eyes slowly guide backwards towards the structure, And even your eyes naturally just wants to go back and finish that zigzag formation with this mountain right here. So then naturally your eyes are going to want to go back and forth between these zigzag lines. We also see this with the same artist in this painting right here. So we do see some more physical lines. So with the physical lines, the leading lines, we do see in the background some fencing that makes your eyes go from left to right. And then this shadow makes your eyes follow through into the foreground. The foreground is bright and vibrant, and you could see the light hitting the portrait itself. So your eyes kind of want to push back and forth, but it naturally wants to settle into the foreground and keep your focus on the portrait. Another type of line that can make your artwork interesting is a gesture line. And this gesture line is usually seen in figure drawings, figure paintings, or even in a sculpture. And gesture lines are meant to guide your eyes throughout the figure itself, but it also creates movement and dynamic to the painting or artwork. So from the top to the bottom, the gesture line starting with the golf club going straight down, we see this curve. And it goes straight down from the tip of his head into the golf club, down into this left toe right here. So this gesture line creates a quick movement. So the viewer can imagine the images before this specific movement. We have implied lines that pushes our eyes from the foreground into the background. And sometimes applied lines can be an alignment of objects. So we have 3 boats pushing back into the background from the foreground. So naturally my eye sees this boat first, and then it jumps to the second one and to this third one. And because of the vertical structure of the buildings, it shoots my eyes up. And then you find interest into what's going on into this background. Additionally, I do see a horizontal movement going on too. So once my eyes go from the foreground into the background and shoot straight up, it kind of wants to bounce back down, and it has this focal point right here. And we see a lot of people on the bridge, and my eyes kind of want to follow this bridge line into a horizontal back and forth motion. And that is also paralleled to this quick horizontal motion of the buildings. I think the biggest movement my eyes do want to do is go back to the foreground and push back into the background. But naturally, my eyes go back down, takes a rest here, and let my eyes follow this quick horizontal movement. In a lot of perspective drawings, we do have converging lines, and converging lines are typically multiple lines that converges to a certain point, and it's supposed to be the focal point. In this specific painting, I'm seeing the converging lines just leading the viewer to feel this movement from this corner out into off of the painting, and seeing and feeling the movement of this person on their way to a specific event. Based off of the title, it's going to a hearing. So this person is moving towards off the painting. So the converging lines, or could be considered perspective lines as well, I see first right here at the bottom of the building and structure, and then the top of the structure wants to move this way. So off of this bottom of the structure and the top of the structure, which lines from here to this, we could see that these are going to converge, and off of the painting there should be that focal point. And another thing that I found interesting in this painting is the animals. So if I zoom in, we see the person has a forward posture, and I think it's so cute that the ducklings, see if you guys can see it, the duckling also imitates this forward posture, which I thought that was like a very cute parallel. And it also gives the viewer like the curiosity of going to a hearing. I also find it interesting that the shadow itself. The man is in shadow as with the rest of the painting, but these animals right here are in the light, and the two ducklings that are imitating this man are in the dark. So I'm sure that is something that maybe these animals here have some type of symbolism or metaphor, but right now focusing on the converging lines, it pushes the viewer this way. So our eyes start here, and then we want to go along with where this person is going, which is to a hearing. Similar to the landscape paintings from earlier, we have some implied lines here as well. So my favorite thing to see when we drive around is cows, and I love paintings of cows too. So in the foreground, my eyes naturally gravitate to the cows, right? And most of the cows are facing to the left. So all of their heads are this way. And we have the slightest little implied line of where the cows are standing right here. And so since the cows are facing this way, my eyes naturally goes right here. And then my eyes catch this line that goes up this ridge. Right here, the eyes follow the background right here. So similar to the landscape paintings earlier that creates a zigzag movement, my eyes are currently doing this zigzag movement for this specific painting. The first thing my eyes notice is this tension that is going on right here. The lighting shown on the two men and on this specific arm too, because this man's body and his gesture line curves down this way, but he is painted in black. And this man right here, as his gesture line goes this way and down, it's a darker brown, so it is harder to see the rest of their body. So our main focus is going to be the tension right here and the way the arm shoots up to this rope. Another thing that adds a lot of drama to this painting is what's going on in the top. So we have rats on this rope right here, and I think that's meant to cause anxiety and disgust to the viewer, that if you felt those rats on your hand, you want to let go, but you know you can't. Another funny thing too, like this similar to the painting earlier, we do have an animal almost falling off too, in a way being parallel to what's going on with the men right now. The name of this painting is He Lost His Hold and Fell, Taking Me With Him. So it's a very dramatic scene right now, and my eyes naturally just wants to focus on this tension and for a moment look up right here of what's going on. So in this last magazine we're going through, I'm just going to thumb through the magazine and see what caught my eye. The other two magazines, I had the time to look through them and really think about what's going on with the composition and the leading lines that makes the painting itself interesting. Right here I already have like a quick gesture line and movement from this horse and cowboy on top. So that's a very quick one. And we'll just go through this quickly and see if anything particularly catches my eye. And we might be able to have some conversations about some movement. Right here we have a lot of movement. And my eyes do want to shoot back and forth between the lights. This one, the first thing I did notice was this tree in the background, just moving back and forth. But we have so much drama right here that I'm surprised that my eyes went straight for this tree. Probably the color of the tree, how bright and vibrant it is. Usually with artists, well, some artists, they tend to make their darker colors and less detail into the background so the viewer can focus on the foreground with more vibrant colors and warmer colors too that pushes out, and the background have cooler colors that pushes backwards. So the foreground typically have warmer colors, more detail work to pop out to the viewer. But in this one, I did notice this tree swaying back and forth, and you know what, that sway motion is kind of mimicking this hammock right here, which is where all of the chaos is happening. That's an interesting one. But here we have some very pretty lighting right here too for these paintings. And I'm sure a lot of these paintings have their own implied lines that makes them interesting in themselves. A classic portrait. With the gesture line, it doesn't only apply to humans, it could apply to animals. So we have this very circular gesture line going on right now. So from the tip of the bull's nose going into his forehead, out into his spine, back to his behind to his toe, we have this very circular gesture line that makes the viewers push back and forth. Ooh, these are a lot of good examples of gesture lines as well. Similar to that painting of the man holding the rope, we have some tension here that goes straight out. And then kind of like a crucifix, if we cross right here, and it goes straight down. So this creates a lot of interest in movement. And this, similar to the bowls, we have this circular gesture line going on too, with the toe pushing from the behind through his back and through his head. So we do have a very circular gesture line as well. I find interest in this painting and I kind of want to figure out why. So we're going to zoom in right now. So looking at this left painting, we do have, it kind of reminds me of the Baroque era where we have very dark shadows and very light lights, but we don't have a lot of drama going on right now. Or there is drama in the lighting and in her pose, but we don't have like a scenery drama. I would say that we do see in a lot of the Baroque paintings. But something about this painting I do find a lot of interest, and it's probably because of that lighting. We have some drapery that pushes up. In her face, we have half of her face in darkness and half of her face in light. And then we have a lot of this negative space framing her. So the edges of the canvas itself isn't always the frame of the subject. Sometimes we do have something like this archway and negative space framing the subject itself. So my focus isn't in this corner. My focus isn't going to be in this corner or down here, even though the lighting's nice. My focus is where the archway is framing in the portrait itself. It's a very beautiful portrait. Okay, this is a good example of a still life being interesting. And this person used this blue ribbon to guide the eyes throughout both still lifes. So it looks like this artist pin, these look like thumbtack pins actually. Looks like the artist pinned ribbon against the backdrop to let it interact with the still life. And that is the same for this painting right here. It's pinned. And they use an orange pin, or the artist might have had regular pins, but they may have decided to use orange because orange and blue are their complementary color. But I do find this still life very interesting, and it may only be because of this blue ribbon guiding my eyes throughout the still life's piece. And each point of the ribbon is showing me to pay attention to each specific object. And right here, it's the same thing. I like this color of the ribbon more. It's darker and deeper, and it guides my eyes to focus on this bowl and shoots my eyes up to the left to focus on this. This artist used a ribbon as a tool to guide the viewer's eyes, and I think that's very clever. This one's nice. My eyes, the shadows of the rocks and the highlights of the rocks makes my eyes just kind of want to stay in the foreground, even though the focus may be the beautiful colors in the background. Very pretty. Same with this painting as well. We push our eyes left in a diagonal this way, and it kind of levels out right here. So like I said earlier, most portraits, your main focus is going to be the eyes. And I kind of just want to stay where these eyes are at. I don't know why. The one thing about portraits is that you do not have to put so much detail into the eyes because the viewer's eyes is going to naturally want to make eye contact with the portrait. Sometimes the artist can make the viewer make eye contact with the portrait, but the portrait could be looking to the left. So if this artist had, or to the right, my apologies. So this artist decided that his main focus is going to be this man right here with the red, then he could have had the viewers go straight to this portrait and have his eyes shift to the right or to the left of him. And then we would know that our focus would be right here. But that wasn't the intention of the artist. We do see both eyes not looking directly at the viewer, but towards us. And so we could safely assume that both subjects are equally important. And it's a portrait of a cardinal and his patron saint. So you could say that they are equally important. We have a lot of movement here, and this is very nice. In this painting, we have a lot of drama in the foreground. So we have the light hitting the foreground, and we see many people interacting in this dramatic piece. So we have all of these people in the foreground. Seems to be a shipwreck. So my eyes are moving from left, right? My eyes are moving from the left where the lighting is at in the foreground. And it goes straight to the shipwreck, and it shoots straight this way, right? It's interesting too, is it points to this tree right here, but it's very dark. So I'm not too sure if that's meant to be a focal point, but shooting back into the background, and it's very hard to see, but we see kind of a lightning strike, or as if the gods are smiting the people below, because in the background we have this ship still safe and in the background, but it's as if it's foreshadowing what will come when he comes towards the shore. Maybe. There's a lot of drama in this one, and the use of light and color in the leading lines is what makes it very interesting. Very, very beautiful gesture line, as well as this one. This is a very just straight up, so I feel like this is very tense, I would say, or constricted. We're coming towards the end of this. This is very beautiful, using the flames. The flames are engulfing her in a way that makes her the focal point. Yeah, so when you start seeing like landscapes as implied lines, you could start understanding why a lot of these landscape paintings are interesting, or maybe interesting. Okay, I think we're at the end of this magazine, about towards the end of it. Yeah, so we'll be moving forward and looking at the potential portrait that I plan on making and talking about that specific composition. So this is an initial sketch of an upcoming project that I have planned. So I want to do a giant self-portrait of myself with my dog Kai, and then my chicken girl, her name is Faith. And I want to do another giant self-portrait or portrait of my husband with our dog Dizzy. So I'm starting out with the composition. Good thing to get your reference photos together and to start planning the portrait on studies. So right here, my main composition that I'm going for is a triangle composition. So the tip of my head to my toe and to where Kai is sitting is going to hopefully keep the viewer in the foreground and focus on this triangle composition, what's going on, and potentially the eyes leading down into the right hand side. I'm hoping that the lighting right here and the lighting right here could guide the eyes down to the toe. Then I might put an element on Kai, potentially a blue ribbon, or potentially a blue ribbon on her, just so that the eyes pushes back towards the animals and back to the portrait itself. And like I said earlier, the eyes are going to be the first thing that potentially the viewers may notice. And like I said, you do not have to put so much detail into the eyes. Naturally, viewers are going to want to make eye contact with the portrait. So we're going straight to the eyes, to my head, going straight down towards my toes, and I'm hoping, like I said earlier, the lighting will push this way, and we'll somehow put an element right here on Kai to push him back to keep the eyes on the foreground in a triangle motion. Earlier you could see that I was planning to put Kai right here in this very Picasso portrait of him. And I decided that it would be better to put him right here to keep this triangle going, and he deserves his own little portrait. And in the past 2 weeks, you did see me work on some studies of him, so I am currently working on that right now. I did a video of using a value scale and painting him in black and white oil painting, and then in another video, I demonstrate using a glaze. So even though this is just a study, I do really like how it came out. Currently working on the background just so that even though it's a study, I might hang it up in the house because I think it's a very cute portrait of him. But I'm hoping to have this exact pose right here for him in this corner. So actually getting the first initial composition down on with the charcoal and the paper, it's always good to practice studies of the composition again over and over again. I do want to do a bigger piece of this itself, but right here I just wanted to focus on the composition. So like I said earlier, we're still going to keep this triangle pose. And then we do have some elements in the background. I have a piano here. I might have just a blank wall here so that we don't focus too much on the background. We do have an archway that I might just kind of insinuate with shadows. Yeah, just something to have the background implied is a great way for the viewer to only focus on the portrait. If you really want the viewer to really focus on all the back factors of the painting itself, then you will put a lot of detail work into the background as much as you do into the foreground. I would like for the viewer to focus on this triangle composition going on right here. So I'll potentially put most of my detail in the foreground and then implied the background. That'll be it for the video this week. I hope you enjoy just more of a relaxed art blog style for this week. I know the last 2 weeks were heavy into tutorials and speed drawings. I'm hoping to do art blogs here and there, talking about art and looking at art with you guys, just as a good break from the constant tutorials. I believe this would be considered my first art blog out of the couple videos I did sent out, and I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed it. Next week, I'm hoping to get more into the two projects that I have planned for our home. Look into where to get my materials in a larger canvas because larger canvases tend to be more expensive. So that'll be it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoy your week and see you guys next week.